The night shift had always been Emma Parker's least favorite part of being a nurse. The fluorescent lights made everything look too pale, too lifeless, and the endless hum of hospital machines echoed like a lullaby for the dying. She was 28, but her eyes carried the quiet exhaustion of someone who had seen too many goodbyes. Every night, she told herself she wouldn't get attached. Every morning, she failed. Her shoes squeaked faintly on the polished floor as she walked through the hospice ward, clipboard in hand. Most rooms were dark, except for the dim glow of monitors tracing fragile heartbeats. When she reached room 209, she stopped. It was his first night, the new patient. She checked the chart. Liam Carter, 30 years old, stage 4 osteosarcoma. Her breath caught for a moment. So young. When she entered, he was sitting upright, sketchbook on his lap, pencil moving softly across the page. He looked up, his expression calm but curious, a faint smile lifting one corner of his lips. "You must be the night nurse," he said, his voice gentle, surprisingly warm. "Emma," she replied automatically, trying to keep her tone professional. "Emma," he repeated, as if testing the sound. "You look like someone who used to dance before life got too heavy." The words caught her off guard. No patient had ever said something like that to her. She frowned, more to hide her blush than anything else. "I'm here to check your vitals, Mr. Carter, not to discuss my hobbies." He grinned. "Then check away, Nurse Emma." As she wrapped the blood pressure cuff around his arm, she noticed the faint ink stains on his fingers. He was an artist. That much was obvious from the sketches on his bedside table. She glanced at them. Each page showed glimpses of faces, sunlight, movement, like he was chasing moments before they disappeared. "Do you always draw?" she asked softly. "Only when I'm afraid I'll forget what life looks like," he said. Something inside her twisted. She'd spent years trying to forget. Her parents' laughter, the smell of her mother's cooking, the sound of tires screeching the night they died. That car crash had shattered everything she believed in. Since then, she'd lived in a blur of work and silence, too afraid to love, too afraid to lose again. But here was a dying man still trying to remember life. As she noted his pulse, he watched her with the calm intensity of someone who saw more than he should. "You have kind eyes," he said simply. "But they look tired of being kind." She blinked rapidly, pretending to double-check the monitor. "You should get some rest." "I rest too much," he said, chuckling. "That's the problem." That night, as she finished her rounds, Emma found herself thinking about his words. She sat at the nurse's station, sipping stale coffee, but her mind kept replaying his smile, his calmness, the way he'd turned his pain into art. She tried to shake it off. She'd seen plenty of patients before. She'd comforted them, cried for some, forgotten others. But something about Liam was different. The next night, she found him again sketching, this time, her. "Hey," she protested, half embarrassed. "You can't just draw people without asking." "I wasn't drawing you," he said, smiling mischievously. "I was drawing what I imagine happiness looks like." "But then you walked in." Her chest tightened. It had been years since anyone said something that made her heart flutter. Later, when her shift ended, she stood by the window overlooking the sleeping city. The streetlights blurred into golden dots as her reflection stared back, pale, tired, but somehow softer than before. She thought about Liam again, about his eyes that held no fear of dying, only a quiet gratitude for the moments he still had. For the first time in a long time, Emma didn't go home feeling empty. There was a strange warmth spreading through her, fragile but real. She didn't understand it yet, but something had begun that night, something quiet, something unstoppable. And deep down, though she didn't want to admit it, Emma Parker was already falling. The days that followed slipped into a rhythm neither of them expected. Every evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Emma found herself counting the hours until her night shift began. Room 209 had become something more than just another patient's room. It felt like a space suspended outside of time, where laughter dared to live even among the whispers of dying hearts. Liam's energy was fading slowly, but his spirit seemed to grow brighter with each passing day. He filled his walls with drawings, nurses rushing through corridors, patients smiling, Emma laughing mid-sentence. The sterile white walls of his room had turned into a gallery of life. "You're making the place too beautiful," Emma teased one night while checking his IV drip. He grinned weakly. If I can't leave the hospital, I might as well make it worth staying in. She shook her head but smiled. There was something about him, a warmth that made her forget where she was. He always noticed the little things. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when nervous, the way she hummed softly while writing notes, the way she avoided talking about herself. So, he said one evening, what made you become a nurse? Compassion or punishment? She laughed lightly. A bit of both, I guess. Liam tilted his head. Punishment. Her smile faded for a moment. When you lose people you love, helping others kind of fills the silence. He didn't press her further, just nodded and started sketching again. Then I'm glad you're here filling mine. That night, Emma stayed longer than usual. They talked about everything. Childhood dreams, favorite songs, regrets, and the things they never told anyone. He told her about his art school days, about painting on city walls, about how he used to sketch faces of strangers on the subway. Every face has a story, he said. I think that's why I like you. Your face looks like it's still writing one. Her heart skipped a beat. She didn't know how to respond, so she just smiled. When she got up to leave, he handed her a folded piece of paper. Don't open it until you get home. That night, sitting in her small apartment, Emma unfolded the paper. It was a quick sketch, her standing by the hospital window, looking out at the city lights. Beneath it, he had written, "Greater than, you look like hope pretending not to believe in itself." Her eyes filled with tears. She pressed the paper to her chest, realizing that somewhere between medicine charts and midnight rounds, something inside her was healing. The next few nights became their world. Emma brought him coffee, sneaking it past the staff, and he drew her holding it like it was the most precious thing in the world. He asked her to describe her parents, her childhood, her favorite color. She hadn't talked about her parents in years, but with him, it didn't hurt as much. He listened, really listened, as if her words were treasures. One evening, when she arrived, she found him sitting in his wheelchair under the hospital garden's fairy lights. He'd asked one of the younger nurses to help him sneak out. The night air was cool, scented with faint jasmine. I wanted to see the stars one more time, he said softly. Emma smiled, pushing his chair closer to the lights. You know you could get in trouble for this. So could you, he replied, smirking. But isn't that what love stories are made of? The word love hung between them like a fragile secret. She froze, unsure if she'd heard him right. He turned toward her, eyes glinting under the soft glow. You make me forget I'm dying, Emma. For that alone, I think I love you. Her heart pounded in her chest. The professional in her screamed to stop, to walk away, to keep the line clear. But the woman, the broken, lonely woman, felt something she hadn't felt in years. She knelt beside him, tears brimming in her eyes. Don't, she whispered, don't make this harder. He smiled sadly. Then just let it be beautiful. The silence that followed was filled with the hum of the garden lights and the faint rhythm of two hearts that knew time was running out. Emma reached for his hand. He squeezed it gently, as if anchoring her to the moment. That night, when she tucked him in, she lingered a little longer by his bedside. His breathing was calm, his hand still loosely holding hers. She wanted to let go, but something in his touch begged her not to. For the first time since her parents' death, Emma felt alive, fragile, terrified, but alive. She knew it was wrong, impossible even. But love doesn't wait for permission, it simply happens. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the white walls and medical silence, Emma Parker realized she was falling for a man who didn't have forever, and maybe that's what made every second matter even more. The winter morning broke gray and silent. The hallway outside room 209 was quieter than usual, as if even the hospital itself held its breath. Emma walked faster than she should have, her hands trembling as she adjusted her stethoscope. Liam hadn't opened his eyes in almost 12 hours. His chart had been updated with new medications, stronger ones, painkillers reserved for when time was running out. When she entered, he was lying still, the sketchbook that once never left his hands now resting closed on the bedside table. His skin was pale, and dark shadows framed his eyes. The machines beeped faintly, counting what little time he had left. Emma sat beside him, pressing her hand into his, cold, fragile, but still warm enough to make her cry. "Hey, artist," she whispered, trying to sound cheerful. "You missed your shift at the garden." He smiled faintly without opening his eyes. "Didn't want to be late for my next adventure." Her throat tightened. "You're not going anywhere yet, Emma," he said softly. "You don't have to lie to make it easier." She bit her lip to stop it from quivering. For weeks, she'd trained herself not to show emotion in front of patients, but with Liam, everything was different. He wasn't just another patient. He had become her heart's quiet center, the one person who made her believe in light again. He coughed weakly, and she helped him sit up. "You still have so much left to draw," she whispered. He smiled. "I've already drawn everything that matters." He looked into her eyes. "You." Her heart broke a little more. She wanted to tell him she loved him, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she brushed his hair gently from his forehead and kissed his temple. "Then draw one more thing," she said. "Draw us, alive, somewhere the world can't hurt us." He chuckled weakly. "In another lifetime, maybe." As the day turned into evening, the light outside dimmed, and the soft glow of his room deepened into a muted gold. The doctor stopped by, gave her a sympathetic nod, and quietly left. Emma sat beside Liam, refusing to move. She knew. He knew. The night was coming for them both. "I never told you something," Liam said suddenly, voice thin like a whisper breaking in the wind. "Don't talk. Save your strength," she said quickly. He shook his head. "No. I need to say it." He reached under his pillow, fingers trembling, and pulled out a small white envelope. Her name was written on it in his careful handwriting. "When I'm gone, promise me you'll read this." Her chest tightened. "Liam, please." He smiled faintly. "You made me believe that even broken souls can feel whole again. That's all I ever wanted." The monitor beeped slower now, each sound slicing through her chest. She squeezed his hand. "I'm not ready," she whispered through tears. "Neither am I," he said, "but that's the beauty of it." He looked at her one last time, his eyes soft, full of something deeper than words could reach. "You saved me, Emma." Then his breathing slowed, his chest rose one last time, and didn't fall again. The line on the monitor went still. The room filled with silence so heavy it felt alive. Emma's world shattered quietly. She pressed her forehead to his hand and wept until her tears soaked his sheets. Time lost all meaning. She didn't hear the nurses who came to disconnect the machines, didn't see the orderly who wheeled him away. The only thing she saw was the empty space where he had been, and the envelope with her name. Hours later, when the night shift was almost over, Emma sat alone in the hospital garden. The fairy lights flickered faintly above her. Her hands shook as she tore open the envelope. Inside were several folded sketches, her laughing, crying, staring out the window. Each one captured her in a moment she hadn't realized he was watching. Beneath them was a note, written in his familiar handwriting. "Greater than, Emma, before you hate me, I need you to know the truth. 5 years ago, I was the driver in the car accident that took your parents' lives. I never forgave myself. I came here knowing my time was almost gone, and fate brought me to you, the one person I hurt the most. You didn't just forgive me, you unknowingly healed me. I never deserved your kindness, but I wanted to leave this world having made something beautiful out of the pain I caused." The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. Her heart felt like it was tearing in two. She gasped, pressing the letter to her chest, unable to breathe. The man she had fallen in love with, the one who made her believe in love again, had been the source of her greatest loss. Her scream broke the stillness of the garden, raw and haunting. She fell to her knees, clutching the sketches, crying until her voice gave out. She didn't know if it was grief, rage, or forgiveness tearing through her, but she knew one thing with unbearable certainty: she would never be the same again. The months that followed felt like a fog that refused to lift. The hospital corridors that once echoed with Emma's steady footsteps now felt hollow, haunted by the ghost of a man she could never forget. She left her job quietly, without a goodbye, just a letter on her supervisor's desk that read, "I can't heal others until I learn to heal myself." Her apartment became a museum of memories. Liam's sketches lay spread across her table, each one a piece of the story she both cherished and despised. Some nights she would stare at them for hours, torn between love and hate. She wanted to rip them apart, to destroy every reminder of him, but she couldn't. Each drawing carried his soul, and every stroke of his pencil whispered, "Forgive me." Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Emma tried to move on, taking long walks by the river, volunteering at art therapy centers, talking to strangers about pain and healing, but no matter what she did, Liam's absence followed her like a quiet shadow. His letter lived in her purse, creased and worn from being unfolded too many times. Every time she read it, she cried a little less, but felt a little more. Then one cold morning in February, she found herself standing in front of a small, empty shop space on Brooklyn's Bedford Avenue. The windows were dusty, the floor cracked, but the light that poured through the glass was soft and golden. Something inside her stirred. She imagined Liam sitting there with his sketchbook, drawing the world as it passed by. She could almost hear his voice teasing, "You should make this place beautiful." That was the moment she decided. 3 months later, the doors of Forgiven Art Studio and Gallery opened to the public. The name alone drew people in. Forgiven. A single word, yet heavy with meaning. Inside, the walls were painted a pale cream, adorned with frames of every sketch Liam had left behind. She restored each torn edge carefully, framing them in simple wooden borders. At the center of the room hung the piece he had drawn the night before he died, her face, turned slightly toward the light, eyes full of something between grief and hope. Beneath it, she added a plaque. "Greater than, love is not about who you were, it's about who you choose to be before it's too late." On opening day, the gallery filled with strangers. Some came out of curiosity, others out of grief of their own. A few recognized her from the hospital and stayed silent, respecting the quiet reverence that hung in the air. Emma stood by the entrance, wearing a soft white dress and a small pendant, the one Liam had given her from his hospital bedside drawer. A little boy tugged his mother's sleeve, pointing at a drawing. "Mom, why is she crying and smiling at the same time?" The woman smiled gently. "Because sometimes that's what love looks like, sweetheart." Emma overheard and closed her eyes, holding back tears. She realized then that her pain had become something beautiful, something that could touch others. Each person who walked through the gallery wasn't just looking at art, they were looking at redemption, forgiveness, and the raw truth of being human. As the evening sun spilled through the windows, casting golden light on Liam's sketches, Emma walked to the center of the gallery and looked up at his final drawing. The world outside hummed with life, cars honking, laughter drifting from the street, but in that moment, everything felt still. She whispered softly, "You hurt me, and you healed me. Maybe that's what love really is." Her voice trembled, but she smiled through it. A single tear slid down her cheek, glinting in the fading light. She didn't wipe it away. In the corner of the room stood Liam's old sketchbook on a pedestal, open to his unfinished final page, a half-drawn sunrise. She placed her hand over it and whispered, "I'll finish it for you." As she picked up a pencil and drew the rising sun over the faint outline he'd left, it felt like their souls met again, one asking forgiveness, the other giving it freely. The light grew warmer around her, soft, almost ethereal. Visitors paused to watch her, unaware of the storm she had endured to reach that peace. When she finally stepped back, the drawing was complete, a sun shining over the words he had once written for her. "You look like hope pretending not to believe in itself." That night, as she locked the doors of her gallery and looked up at the glowing sign that read "Forgiven," Emma realized that love hadn't left her, it had simply changed form. It had become art, healing, light. And somewhere beyond the stars, she hoped Liam could see that his final sketch had given her a new beginning.